Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So once again, good morning, everyone. Buenos días a todos. Gracias por estar aquí. In a few moments, we will begin our Assembly for Hope. So as we settle down, we prepare for this morning of reflection, celebration, and action. We now are going to invite Mr. Christopher Kendall, Director of Music at Jesuit Catholic Church, to open our gathering in a song.
Good morning. So for the song for this morning, some of it may feel familiar, so the song is All Are Welcome, but at the end, I want to sort of change melody a bit and have us sing it together. So if you know it, feel free to sing along, and at the end, if you hear the words, please join us in song. All right? All are welcome, all are welcome in this place. Let us build a house where love can dwell and all can safely live. A place where saints and sinners know how hearts learn to forgive. Built on hopes and dreams and visions, vault of grace and throne of grace. Here the love of Christ shall end divisions. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. Let us build a house where hands will reach beyond the wood and stone, to heal and strengthen, serve and teach, and live the word they've known. Hear the outcast and the stranger, bear the image of God's face. Let us bring an end to fear and danger. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. Let me hear you say, all are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. One more time, everybody. All are welcome. All are welcome. All are welcome in this place. Everybody sing. All are welcome. All are welcome. All are welcome in this
Good morning. I'm Judy Brooks. I'm the president of the board of Strangers to No Longer, and we're very glad to have you all here. I also want to introduce Veronica.
Like he said, bienvenidos, welcome. And I am Veronica Camarena, Vice President of Strangers No Longer. This assembly is not a gathering, it's a commitment. A commitment to listen, to witness, and to act together for more than just welcome Michigan, but a loving Michigan. As all you know, Strangers No Longer is a statewide organization made up of circles of support in Catholic parishes, high schools, and other community institutions that understand the importance of urgency and urgency of helping immigrant neighbors. And if you look around your streets, your neighborhoods, your stores, there's always somebody that looks a little bit different, a little more color, or a little bit of an accent.
Strangers No Longer is rooted in Catholic social doctrine, which includes a steadfast commitment to social justice. In Pope Leo's recently published encyclical, Magnificat Humanitas, he identifies migrants, refugees, displaced people as a litmus test, meaning that how a nation treats these groups reveals whether its sense of justice is driven by fear or by a spirit of fraternity. Strangers No Longer believes that our nation's sense of justice can be led by a spirit of fraternity. Strangers No Longer believes that for this to happen, we need to protect the rightful hopes and dreams of those forced to leave their homes.
And that is exactly why we are here. In the room today, we have immigrants, citizens, lay people, clergy of different faiths, religious women, allied elected officials like Senator Chang and the State Attorney General Nessa. More simply put together, people that care for others have filled this room. We gather as people of faith, conscious, building a community to affirm simply truth. Every person deserves dignity, no matter their immigrant status or their color. Throughout our morning together, we will hear stories, reflect and share values, and take a collective step toward ratifying shared policy platform for change. Let us all stand and celebrate our unity. So to start off our assembly, I would like to invite Juan Pablo to lead us in a moment of remembrance for all those who are currently detained in the ICE detention centers. There will be a translator.
Hola, mi nombre es Juan Pablo El 8 de abril del 2026, agentes de ICE se presentaron en mi casa bajo la falsa acusación de haber faltado a una corte. Yo tenía pruebas físicas y digitales de que mi cita de rutina era el día 28.
Then use his mic.
Hello. My name is Juan Pablo. On April 8th, 2026, ICE agents showed up at my house under the false accusation that I had failed to appear in court. I had physical and digital evidence proving that my routine court date was on the 28th.
Pese a esto, me amenazaron con la deportación si no me presentaba en sus oficinas antes de las 11 de la mañana y acudí de inmediato, respaldado por mis documentos y acompañado por miembros de Strange No Longer.
Despite this, they threatened to deport me if I didn't show up at their offices by 11 a.m. I went there immediately with my documents in hand and accompanied by members of Strangers No Longer.
Al llegar, me detuvieron de inmediato, ignoraron mis pruebas y ante mis reclamos de que se trataba de un error, un oficial me soltó una frase fría: eso no importa. Esposado de manos y de pies, fui trasladado en un viaje de 5 horas hacia el centro de detención de North Lake en Baldwin.
When I arrived, they arrested me immediately. They ignored my evidence, and when I protested that it was a mistake, an officer coldly replied, "That doesn't matter." Handcuffed and shackled, I was transported on a 5-hour trip to the North Lake Detention Center in Baldwin.
Para empezar nuestra asamblea de hoy, recordemos todas aquellas personas de nuestras comunidades que se han visto afectadas por la detención, la separación y el miedo, especialmente a las familias afectadas por el centro de tramitación de North Lake en Baldwin y otros centros similares. Hoy llevamos sus historias en nuestros corazones. Tomemos un momento de silencio.
To begin our assembly today, let's remember all those in our communities who have been affected by detention, separation, and fear, especially the families that have been affected by the North Lake Processing Center in Baldwin and other similar facilities. Today, we carry their stories in our hearts. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. And now for our invocation.
Good morning. Buen día. Lo siento, mi español muy mal, muy mal. Juan, lo siento. Lo siento. My name's Bonnie Perry, and I serve as the bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Michigan. So we're not all Catholics here, but we all care. People of faith, we care. And we have come here today to set our course of action, using words to guide us and remind us how we might embody God's hope for the world. And rest assured, we will not get it right exactly. We will miss a nuance or two. Democracy is like that. But doing this together, hearing from everyone, we are certain to move closer to God's hope and God's call that we might set the framework to hold our government government accountable, and that will enable us to assist our refugee and immigrant siblings in need, and that will empower us to do the sacred work of loving our neighbors as ourselves, come what may, cost what it might. I invite you to stand and Holy One, in you we live and move and have our being. We forget that. Remind us. And it is you whose image and likeness each of us and every one of us has been made. Give us kindness, compassion, and courage to keep our immigrant and refugee siblings safe. In the name of the God who loves the stranger, the Christ who became a refugee, and the Spirit who blows where she wills. Amen. Amen.
Hello, my name is Christina Dreiser. I'm with Christ the Redeemer in Lake Orion. On behalf of Strangers No Longer, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce our Michigan Attorney General, Dana Nessel. Attorney General Nessel has served as Michigan's Attorney General since 2019. Throughout her tenure, she has supported immigrant communities by advocating for equal access to justice, defending civil rights, and joining legal efforts to protect the rights and well-being of immigrant families.
Yes.
Her work reflects a broader commitment to ensuring that all Michigan residents are treated fairly under the law. She is term limited and not running for office this fall. I now invite Attorney General Nessel to reflect on our state's context and the challenges, accomplishments, and responsibilities we face together.
Good morning. Good morning. It's so good to be with you all here today, even if we have a really difficult subject matter to discuss. Just a little bit in way of my background. My grandparents were immigrants from Eastern Europe. They fled the Holocaust. Everyone who was not able to make the journey perished in the Holocaust. And my grandparents were just, one of a few siblings that were able to make it out. My father became a citizen through birthright citizenship. And then just one generation later, his daughter became the top lawyer in a state of over 10 million people. Because that is how immigration works, and that is what makes America truly great.
Yes.
Anyway, I thank you all so much for having me here today. Obviously, as you are all very well aware, the American public has borne witness to a swarm of untrained, unidentifiable federal agents invading our communities and threatening the safety of every resident.
Yes.
Not only have ICE's actions been flagrantly immoral, but they've been separating families with no regard for their well-being or for children involved, much less the parents and other members of a family's support system. They've been conducting arrests in the courthouses, pulling the rug out from under people who have spent years abiding by all of our country's convoluted requirements in order to earn their citizenship or green card or what have you legally, and paying taxes and paying Social Security, and I could go on and on. Now, in many cases, ICE's actions have just been straight up illegal. Their insistence on leveraging administrative warrants that have, of course, not been signed by a judge or a magistrate as justification to violate an individual's Fourth Amendment protection against unlawful search and seizure has been abhorrent. Also, the countless instances of the use of unnecessary excessive force when conducting arrests and interacting with protesters. If nothing else, ICE and DHS have certainly abandoned any deference they might have once paid attention to in terms of the standard of best practices that have been adopted by law enforcement agencies across this country. And in my many, many years as a prosecutor, I have never seen any law enforcement agency conduct themselves with such flagrant disregard for their responsibilities to our communities. Yes. They have completely abdicated their responsibility to investigate and address agent and officer misconduct, including, of course, the two horrific officer-involved shootings that took the lives of Renee Good and Alex Preddy during Operation Metro Surge last year. From my conversations with local and county law enforcement agencies across the state, it is clear that ICE has not been deconflicting their operations. That means they aren't even telling the locals where they're going to be and when and what they plan to do there. So when these officers pull up in mass with no agency identifying insignia on their uniforms, who is to say whether they're actually legitimate or not? Yeah. And of course, Michigan is not alone in experiencing copycat incidences, such as in February, when we had an individual posing as ICE approaching shoppers and staff at the Kroger in Dearborn, demanding to see their papers like it's Nazi Germany. Now, ultimately, ICE's actions have done more to undermine public safety than to enhance it. And they are actively destroying the hard-won trust of local law enforcement who worked so hard to build that trust in the wake of George Floyd in their communities. Yep. And what does that mean? Victims and witnesses have stopped coming forward, making it more difficult to hold bad actors accountable and to prevent them from graduating to more frequent or severe criminal activities in our neighborhoods. Families are afraid to go to their local food banks. Kids are missing school or doctor's appointments. Local businesses are suffering under an overall chilling of community activity. And in order to devote more resources to the immigration front, agencies like the FBI and Homeland Security rolled back their work on pressing actual criminal concerns like combating organized retail crime or human trafficking or consumer protection. And for what? At the height of the Operation Metro Surge, 2 of every 3 individuals arrested by ICE had no criminal record whatsoever. Now, ProPublica reports that there have been more than 18,000 habeas petitions filed against ICE under the second Trump administration, detainees contending that their detention is just flat out illegal. That's more than the amount that accumulated over the last 3 administrations combined: Biden, Trump 1, and Obama. Judges are growing increasingly frustrated, publicly rebuking the administration for missing deadlines and failing to comply with court orders in a way that I've never seen before involving the Department of Justice. Now, for the negligible number of dangerous criminals they are actually apprehending, oftentimes they're deporting them with no further consequence, no justice for victims, and no assurances of safety for our communities, literally making our communities less safe. And as the state's top law enforcement official, I want to draw on your attention to a consideration that's a bit in the weeds, but I think it's important as a point to be made. Now, if your local law enforcement agency is cooperating with ICE's illegal operations, they could very well open themselves up as a municipality to significant liability concerns. So local officers who wrongfully issue and enforce detainers remain liable for the constitutional and legal violations those practices entail. Literally, in a way that can bankrupt local communities. The federal government has far more legal protections and resources to get lawsuits of this nature dismissed. So plaintiffs will turn to the lowest hanging fruit to exact their comeuppance, and that means local law enforcement, it means county law enforcement, or state. So existing staff shortages have already been exacerbated by ICE recruitment, and we need those officers available to continue their regular patrols, responding to calls, and provide emergency services as needed. So for the past year, I've been trying to spread the good word across all corners of our state that every law enforcement agency should be reviewing their policies or creating policies specific to immigration in order to minimize their risk of liability. And we ask everyone to take a look at the Michigan State Police's policy for an example of what those best practices are. Now, I want to be clear that my office does not have the authority to bring cases on behalf of individuals who have been wronged by ICE, but organizations like the ACLU and the Michigan Immigrant Rights Council have been doing an excellent job to assist families who are in crisis, and I recommend you check out the work they're doing as the most immediate line of support available to the most vulnerable among us. Now, that's not to say my department has been sitting on our hands. We are using every resource at our disposal to fend off ICE's incursion into our communities. My department launched a reporting form for residents who witness or experience what they consider to be concerning behavior by federal agents. We call it the SALUTE method of reporting. You report the size, the number of agents, vehicles, etc., activity, what are they doing, location, where did this happen, the unit, noting any insignias or markings, time, when exactly did this happen, and the equipment, what tools or weapons were observed. Now this can be found alongside updates to our local action cases at mi.gov/AG Federal Actions. We have also filed numerous amicus briefs opposing policies like mandatory detention without bond and defending against the dismantlement of critical federal programs like the U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program and the TPS visa protections for millions, though SCOTUS, as you know, just ruled against us on the latter issue, unfortunately, just last week. Shameful. Absolutely shameful. More successfully, though, we've been able to prevent the federal government from withholding millions of dollars in congressionally allocated funding for things like food assistance, infrastructure projects, housing programs, and crime victim assistance if our agencies don't agree to take on the responsibility of doing ICE's job of immigration enforcement for them, or to turn over incomprehensible sums of private personal data on the residents participating in these programs. Now, Michigan is part of the case defending the 14th Amendment birthright citizenship at the United States Supreme Court, and we expect the ruling to come down any day now on this issue as the court wraps up its term. If the court rules against us on this, I just don't even know what to make of the judicial system in the United States anymore. This is so clear cut. I can't believe that they didn't, that they took this case at all is insane. And also on the positive front, as you know, we were victorious in Romulus. forcing the federal government to reverse course and to sell off the warehouse they had been intending to retrofit as a new detention center right in the heart of Metro Detroit. And a few notes on Romulus. While we were always very confident in our strong legal arguments that this warehouse would never be a proper venue to build a detention center, and while we are so grateful for the courage of Romulus's local leadership for refusing to back down from the fight, our victory in this case would not have been possible without concerned residents like all of you standing up and making your voices heard. Widespread public outcry over this project and consistent, peaceful, legal protests occurring at the facility every weekend, the backlash just became too powerful for the Trump administration to withstand. So I am grateful that all of you are not just resting on your laurels. This conference is a testament to your determination to keep this issue top of mind for all Michigan residents, especially as we enter a very pivotal election cycle this fall. So when you're doing your research into candidates who are asking for your vote, particularly those congressional candidates asking for you to send them to Washington, D.C., please make sure you know their stance on immigration. Are those candidates willing to fight for the things you believe in? Do they have a plan that comprehends the grave urgency of our nation's need for immediate reform? We cannot afford to continue to dance around this issue with meaningless platitudes. Congress has spent far too long on the sidelines, passively observing as our country suffers the consequence of their indolence. Friends, something needs to change. And you guys are all in a position to change it by being concerned, informed, insistent voters up and down the ballot this November. So let me say this. Please continue conducting peaceful and legal protests. Talk to your friends and neighbors about your concerns, both in person and online. Write a letter to the editor of your local paper. Attend your city council or county commission meetings, speaking up at public comment about why this issue is so important to you, and then post it on social media. As your Attorney General, it is my responsibility and my privilege to defend our residents against attacks on our communities, against our rights, and against our nation's most vulnerable. And I vow that I am going to continue to do this to the best of my ability until my time in this office ends. But I am so heartened to know that there are organizations like Strangers No Longer who are right there on the front lines fighting beside me. And I really appreciate all the wonderful things that you guys have done and the difference that you've made in the lives of so many. So thank you for having me. Thank you for all you're doing, and let's continue to fight.
Thank you, Attorney General Nessel, for your insight and all that you've done for our state. Once again. Good morning. My name is Nick Chewy. I belong to the Circle of Support at Our Lady of the Woods Catholic Church in Woodhaven, and we have a vigil over here. Now that we have a better understanding of what is happening in Michigan and the importance of making our voices heard, we turn to the heart of this assembly, the policy platform, grounded in 5 core principles of belonging. This platform was made because this year is an election year. We have the opportunity to make informed decisions about who will represent us, who will uplift our priorities and our values. To make our individual decisions, however, we need to be clear about what our values are and what we should be prioritizing. Which is why, a couple of months ago, we released a community survey where we asked what immigration-related issues were of most concern and urgency. You can see on the screen behind me some of these results. Using this information, we drafted a policy platform that would help us initiate conversations with political candidates about the top 5 issues that people are concerned about. What I am about to read is the preamble to our policy platform. This preamble grounds our platform within Catholic social doctrine and outlines our principles of belonging. Each principle is directly related to a top 5 issue of concern from our survey. Feel free to follow along in your platform booklets. Driven by our faith's call to welcome the stranger, Strangers No Longer is committed to walking alongside our immigrant neighbors in prayer, hope, and action for a Michigan that upholds the dignity of all human beings and values the contributions of every resident of our great state. Through our direct accompaniment with immigrant communities statewide, we have come to identify 5 central themes that unite us as one people. These themes are not simply common ground between U.S.-born and foreign-born Americans, but rather a declaration of our shared humanity, rooted in solidarity and the common good. For Michigan to be a welcoming state, the following should hold true for all families and residents. Everyone deserves to live without fear of forcible separation. Everyone deserves safety and protection. Everyone deserves quality community programs and resources. Everyone deserves the opportunity to fully participate in civic and economic life. And everyone deserves the dignity of due process and constitutional protections. Strangers No Longer understands that there must be federal policy changes in order to successfully address the ongoing immigration crisis in the U.S. These changes must begin by exposing the racial and socioeconomic discriminations that have fueled the current immigration system, and end by embracing a new system that centers compassion and respect for the intrinsic and inviolable human dignity of all people. These principles summon us to action. I now call us to ratify this preamble as the foundation of our shared commitment. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nick. We are now about to hear from members of Strangers No Longer, who will lay out the policy platform details. Each of the 5 core principles of belonging from our preamble will include a story from someone who has been personally impacted. Our suggested policy proposals are written in the form of a question which you can ask the candidates running for your local, state, and federal offices. We encourage you to review the full platform within your program booklet. This version includes each policy proposal along with key talking points that the issue details and the need for the policy change. We can now begin with our first speaker.
Hello, everyone. So this testimony is not my own. It is of a family that could not be here today. The first principle of belonging on our platform is that everyone deserves to live without fear of forced separation. The following testimony is from Itzamat and her family, who could not be here today. One day, my husband didn't come home. Even though he was doing everything legally required for his asylum application, this was devastating. My husband and I had just bought a house, and we were in the process of moving in with our 2 children. But the saddest part was that we had just found out I was pregnant with our 3rd child. It's been almost 15 months, and my husband is still being held in Baldwin. He was one of the first to be imprisoned there. Our baby is already 8 months old, but his dad has never held him in his arms. We're all heartbroken. My children cry every time their dad's name is mentioned. The middle one has started counseling because he cries for his dad at school. My husband is now considering self-deportation. I'm working and I'm trying to keep up with all of the bills, but it's very difficult. I don't know what else to do. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that my husband missed our son's birth. He missed birthdays, milestones, and everyday moments that our family will never be able to get back. Our children are growing up without their father, not because he committed a crime, but because our family was torn apart while we were seeking protection. The emotional wounds this has caused our family will last a lifetime. So to a federal candidate, our platform asks, if elected, will you support a meaningful federal immigration reform like that proposed by the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops and the American Immigration Council that offers pathways to citizenship for long-term residents, alternative compliance processes in lieu of detention and removal, and humanitarian protections and due process to refugees and asylum seekers? We will now introduce our second principle of belonging.
Good morning. My name is Julie Watanabe, and I am part of the Circle at St. Michael's in Sterling Heights. Our second Our second principle of belonging is that everyone deserves safety and protection. And for this pillar, I want to share 2 stories that are related to education. I'm a teacher, that's how I look at all things. Through my involvement in Strangers No Longer, I have come to realize that all of us have a role as being educators in our community. So last summer, Strangers No Longer launched the Local for Local campaign to educate law enforcement about the impacts of police-ICE collaboration through the 287G agreements. Now, these are formal partnerships between local law enforcement and ICE. And I was hesitant to get involved. I'm pretty sure I described myself as Bill O'Brien's favorite stick in the mud at the meetings. I have always been very hesitant, and I was kind of doubting whether or not my perspective would make a difference. And I was brought up in a family where we kind of hold politics inside. And so this was very hard. I went outside of my comfort zone, and Bill pushed and prodded, as he is known to do, and eventually said, fine, I will do it. So we went and we talked to the police leaders at Sterling Heights, and something that was really interesting to me was that most of these police agencies don't know much at all about 287G agreements. I felt like I was teaching the police department about the agreement. I'm always a teacher. So, by sharing how these agreements work, we can undermine, and how they undermine public safety by encouraging racial profiling and eroding trust between police and their community, I helped open a meaningful dialogue. In response, they expressed no interest in pursuing agreements last summer, and it was a great experience. I felt real good about it. And it showed me that education matters. When people have accurate information, they are better equipped to make decisions that strengthen and protect our communities. To the state candidate, our platform asks, if elected, will you support legislation prohibiting local law enforcement agencies from entering into 287G agreements with ICE, as states such as New York, Illinois, New Jersey, and Colorado have already done? Now, I have mentioned that I'm a teacher, and the second story is very near and dear to me. This is about the consequences of families not feeling safe or protected in sensitive locations like a school or a hospital. I had a student this year, he was a 7th grader, his name was Gael. Gael struggled with something in his leg the entire year. He would walk around with a limp. And we contacted Mom. We talked through our ESL Parapro. We tried to get this child in to see a doctor, and Mom was kind of hesitant. There was an appointment or two that was missed. About 7 weeks before the end of the school year, he was rushed to the ER for emergency surgery. His hip had dislocated, and he had to miss the rest of the school year. Now, given the family's immigration status, his father had recently been deported. I have no doubt that part of the reason why this did not happen sooner, that this child did not get his medical care, was because Mom was afraid of the consequences of taking this child to the doctor. And as a result, this beautiful 13-year-old was in pain the entire school year, and eventually was so immobilized that they had to take him in for emergency surgery. So, suffering needlessly, right, out of fear. So to our state candidate, our platform will ask, if elected, will you support state legislation like Senate Bill 508 that would designate locations such as places of worship, hospitals, and schools as protected spaces, allowing federal immigration enforcement to enter only with a valid judicial warrant? On to our next piece of the platform.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Rilk Noel, and I'm with the Haitian Network Group of Detroit. And over the past few years, we've received an influx of new immigrants to Detroit, and we are doing as much as we can to help them out. But today, I'm going to relay to you the fear of a parent. And this fear is rooted in our culture. This particular parent was telling us that his son may be in jeopardy. And that comes again from our traditional way of interacting with people in a position of power, with authorities in general. As a young kid, a Haitian boy or girl is taught not to look at authority figures in the eye. In school, your parents can be called to the principal office because your son or daughter looked too intently at their teacher. So the dad's fear is that his son is going to be stopped by the police And given that he won't be looking at them straight in the eye, they're going to say he's shifty, he's suspicious, and that might result in ICE being called upon to take the son away. To me, that's the justified fear. And as part of HNGD and other organizations out of state that are trying to promote the rights of immigrants, we are trying to see if someone is running for statewide office or federal office or even local office, are they going to support our platform, the one that Strangers No Longer just mentioned, in terms of having local law enforcement, first of all, receive funding to be trained on how to act with immigrants when they are stopped, and understand that because I have an accent, I don't pose a threat to you, or because I have an accent, I'm not illegally here in this country. So that would be item number one on any platform, on the platform for any statewide candidate or federal level candidate. The second one would be when we look at the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards, we want to make sure that our local and state law enforcement agencies are giving training and are funded to be able to interact with ICE in a meaningful way, because they don't have to really do what ICE asks them to do, and our Attorney General was clear on that fact. But if they don't know that they have this right, they may bend down or bend over and do whatever they need to be compliant when they don't need to be. So the other aspect of interaction with immigrants that I'd like to bring up is, as the Haitian members of the community who are recent immigrants are no longer allowed to work, that has an economic impact on the community. Everybody suffers from that. They don't pay their taxes anymore, and we notice a decline in the remittance, meaning money that they send home to their parents, relatives, and it's a global issue in terms of not being able to function in a society simply because of fear. And in many cases, that fear is justified. Pablo was able to tell us what happened to him. And no matter how forceful you are, no matter how right you are, no me importa. So that is really, really scary. And I wanted to relay that story to you because to some extent, I think that personally, I have been not held back in my career progression, but someone pulled me aside, and that was a great mentor that I have, lucky enough early in my career to tell me, when you interact with people, look at them in the eye. That is very, very important. That's how you convey confidence, and people will believe in what you're trying to tell them. That's the story I had to share with you today, and thank you for giving me the platform to do it.
Hola, mi nombre es Guadalupe Enríquez. El cuarto tema de nuestra plataforma es que todos merecen la oportunidad de participar plenamente en la vida cívica y económica. Para mí y para muchas personas que están como inmigrantes en Michigan, este tema tiene todo que ver con la oportunidad de tener licencias de conducir.
Hello, my name is Guadalupe Enriquez. The fourth principle of belonging is that everyone deserves the opportunity to participate fully in civic and economic life. For me and for many immigrants in Michigan, this issue is all about the opportunity to obtain driver's licenses.
La importancia de estas licencias está en mi familia. Sin una licencia de conducir, se hace muy difícil nuestro día a día. Cosas tan comunes como ir a la tienda por comida, llevar a mis hijos a la escuela o al doctor cuando se enferman. visitar a la familia que se encuentra lejos de nosotros, se convierte en momentos de estrés y angustia, porque al manejar sin licencia uno corre el riesgo de ser parado, entregado a ICE y últimamente separado de la familia.
The importance of these licenses is evident in my own family. Without a driver's license, our daily lives become very difficult. Everyday tasks like going to the grocery store, taking my children to school or to the doctor when they're sick, or visiting relatives who live far away become sources of stress and anxiety because driving without a license puts you at risk of being pulled over, turned over to ICE, and ultimately separated from your family.
Como pueden imaginarse, tener licencia de conducir nos ayudaría mucho, con ella podríamos vivir sin tanta preocupación, nos serviría como identificación para poder identificarnos en lugares donde piden ID vigente.
As you can imagine, having a driver's license would help us immensely. With it, we could live without so much worry and fear. It would serve as identification so we can prove who we are in places where valid ID is required.
Nos ayudaría a que nuestros hijos no se desenfoquen en clases por estar pensando en que si llegamos a casa bien por estas razones. Les pido su apoyo para las licencias de conducir para personas como yo. Muchas gracias por su atención.
It would help keep our children focused on their schoolwork instead of worrying about whether we'll make it home safely. For these reasons, I ask for your support for driver's licenses for people like me. Thank you very much for your attention. To the state candidate, our platform asks, if elected, will you support legislation similar to that of Washington, D.C. and 19 others to restore driver's licenses to all age-eligible Michigan residents? And now we'll go into our last principle of belonging in our platform.
Hola nuevamente, mi nombre es Juan Pablo. El último tema de nuestra plataforma es que todos tienen derecho a la dignidad, a un proceso justo y a las garantías constitucionales. Como ya mencioné al principio del programa de hoy, estuve detenido en Baldwin. Estando dentro por casi 2 meses, estaba claro que la negligencia médica era lo común.
Hello, once again, my name is Juan Pablo. The last principle of belonging is that everyone has a right to dignity, of due process, and constitutional protections. As I mentioned at the beginning of today's program, I was detained in Baldwin. Being there for about 2 months, it was clear that medical negligence was commonplace.
Una noche, uno de mis amigos sufrió un dolor en el pecho, dificultad para respirar, entumecimiento de las extremidades y vómitos intensos. Se lo comuniqué al guardia, pero no fue hasta 40 angustiosos minutos después cuando llegó una enfermera, y la enfermera ni siquiera le hizo un chequeo físico.
One night, one of my friends experienced chest pain, difficulty breathing, numbness in his limbs, and severe vomiting. I told the security guard immediately about it, but it wasn't until 40 agonizing minutes later that a nurse arrived, and the nurse didn't even give him a physical exam.
Lo mismo ocurrió con un joven africano, pero su caso fue aún más extremo. Mostraron una indiferencia absoluta ante su dolor y demoraron más de 1 hora en sacarlo.
The same thing happened to a young African man, but his case was even more extreme. They showed complete indifference to his pain and took more than an hour to get him attention.
Este último evento colmó la paciencia del patio. Tras lo sucedido con el muchacho, logramos tener una reunión con el guardia a cargo y los supervisores. Después de fuertes discusiones y reevaluar los hechos, algunos de ellos nos ofrecieron disculpas. Dijeron que todo era nuevo para ellos.
This latest incident was the last straw for the courtyard. After what happened with the young man, we managed to arrange a meeting with the guard in charge and the supervising officers. Following heated discussions and a review of the facts, some of the officials apologized to us. They argued that all of this was new to them.
Sin embargo, estas disculpas solo hacían ver una realidad alarmante. Las directivas de salud en el centro son deficientes y altamente riesgosas.
However, those apologies only offered a glimpse of an alarming reality. The center's general health guidelines are inadequate and highly risky. To a federal candidate, our platform asks, if elected, will you support a federal investigation into the health and safety conditions of all Michigan immigrant detention centers, including the North Lake Processing Center, call for an indefinite moratorium on new immigrant detention facilities, and pursue instead humane community-based alternatives? To a state candidate, our platform asks, if elected, will you call for an inspection by the Michigan Department of Health to investigate the health and safety conditions at all privately run or county-run immigrant detention centers in Michigan, and oppose the expansion of new detention facilities in the state?
Por último, me gustaría hacer una invitación a todas las personas, si tienen un familiar, un conocido o pueden ayudar a alguien, en especial que tenga un problema de salud, por favor estar muy pendientes porque es una preocupación real de incluso uno perder la vida dentro de ese centro de detención porque la asistencia médica es muy mala.
And lastly, he wants to say that if you do have someone that is detained or is in this situation, to make sure to please follow up with them continuously, especially if they have any sort of medical concern, because the reality is that even your life could be at stake while you're in there. So make sure to keep up with them and continue asking them how they are. Thank you. Before we conclude our piece on the policy platform, I do want to give a shout out to Senator Chang, who is here with us today. And now we will move into the ratification of our policy platform by our statewide Immigrant Advisory Council, El Consejo Estatal. So if you are part of the Consejo Estatal, please come up to the front of the stage. She's going to explain.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Flor Carmona y soy coordinadora del Consejo Estatal y Strangers No Longer. Muchas gracias a todos los exponentes de nuestra plataforma de políticas.
Hello everyone, my name is Flor Carmona and I am the state coordinator of our Immigrant Advisory Council for Strangers No Longer. Thank you a lot for all the speakers of our policy platform.
Ahora quiero invitar a todos los miembros presentes del Consejo Estatal si pueden venir al escenario para ratificar esta plataforma. Aquí está nuestro Consejo presente.
And now I'd like to invite all members of the council to join me on stage to ratify our policy platform. And here are our current members of our Consejo Estatal. Let's give them a round of applause.
Nosotros, el Consejo Estatal, rectificamos este programa como reflejo de nuestros valores compartidos y de nuestra experiencia vivida.
We, the Consejo Estatal, affirm this platform as a reflection of our shared values and lived experiences. Thank you. I just want to say something that's not on script really quick. One of the things that I really love about Strangers No Longer is that we have immigrant community members as a part of the leadership. So that's going
before we move on, we need to thank Steve Purchase of the Carpenters in the Millwright facility. All right,
Thanks so much. I just wanted to welcome you to our house. We're so proud to be able to host you all this morning and the important work that you're doing. And really, it's not me, it's our members. So I'll pass along your thanks to our members who make all of this possible, both our contractors who do things the right way and hire employees and take care of their employees, and our members who, through their dues, make buildings like this possible. So like I said, we're thrilled to have you here. This work means a lot to us. There's a lot of exploitation in the construction industry. It's rampant. And we see it every day in our communities throughout the state, including a project just a couple blocks from our Capitol building in Lansing, where we found 11 and 12-year-old kids who were brought here from another country and exploited on that construction site. This is work that matters, and it's hard work because we care about people. And so, especially in today's environment, to do the work of routing out exploitation while protecting the people who are exploited is difficult. But it's communities like this that make it possible. So thank you for everything that you do.
The next thing that we are going to try and accomplish is to have a roll call of the circles of support. But before we do that, we would like you to take about 3 minutes to caucus with the people that you have brought here and ask them if they are good, are they positive, or that they want to ratify the platform. After about 3 minutes, we're going to call a representative from your group to come up to the front of the stage. And one by one, they will say, yes, I am from Nativity or wherever, and we have chosen to ratify the platform. So we're going to take a 3-minute little break, talk among yourselves, make some decisions about who has the most gusto that can come up front and give it a go, and refresh yourself with some coffee if you need that to happen.